This is 5 on your side at 5. Focused on you.
Tonight, a major multi-million-dollar verdict for two St. Louis families. This is after two fathers were killed when their car slid underneath the back of a tractor trailer. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Kelly Jackson.
I'm Ann Allred. This 2019 crash happened along I-44 and 55. It was near the 7th Street exit. A lawsuit was filed against the trailer manufacturer for the failure of its equipment. And 24 hours ago, a jury handed down a big decision. Our Justina Cornell joins us in studio. Justina.
Well, a jury found the trailer manufacturer in this case responsible for the deaths of two St. Louis men, and their attorneys argued even though the cars rear-ended those trucks, the trucks didn't have the proper guards for protection.
These deaths were preventable. They were unnecessary.
These are the pictures of a horrific St. Louis crash, May 19th, 2019. 30-year-old Taryn Taylor and passenger 23-year-old Nicholas Perkins were killed instantly when their car rear-ended a Wabash Corporation manufactured tractor trailer. This is called an underride, when a car slides underneath the body of a truck.
What they needed to do to fix the problem and make it safe, they could have done decades ago.
These four attorneys represented the families of the two fathers. A 2-week trial resulted in a $462 million verdict, awarding the families finding Wabash responsible.
This is one of the first rear underride crashes that has been tried to verdict in St. Louis City.
John and Johnny Simon, father and son, are with Simon Law Firm. The attorneys learn upon impact, the trailer's rear impact guard, called a rig, tore off and allowed the car to go under. At trial, the Simons said the company ignored decades of research about the impacts of its rigs to prevent this from happening.
The trailer in our case was consciously designed to prevent underride in 30-mile-an-hour impacts. Every one of these trailers is on the highway. The minimum legal speed on the highway is 40 miles an hour.
They believe money is one reason for the lack of change.
In order to make a rig that actually would have been safe and prevented this accident, according to their own records, cost about $313 per trailer.
While cost may be a cause, the attorneys believe no amount of money is worth a life.
If what the jury did in this case results in saving a single life, it was all worth it.
The company is expected to appeal. It sent a lengthy statement in response saying it's evaluating all available legal options in response to the verdict. It said, quote, "While this was a tragic accident, we respectfully disagree with the jury's verdict and firmly believe it is not supported by the facts or the law," end quote.
Tonight, athletes will hold a tribute for a teen killed in a Monroe County crash. 15-year-old Crawford Bryant was a passenger in a car that crashed last weekend. He was a sophomore at Columbia High School. Columbia is playing a football game against Waterloo tonight. And while the teams are rivals, players plan to come onto the field together and pay tribute to Bryant. His teammates also plan to wear armbands with his jersey number 5 on them. And fans are wearing orange and blue to show unity. That game starts at 7.
Now time for our weather impact forecast. Feels a lot like fall this weekend.
It does. Let's check in with meteorologist Jim Castillo. I hope you're going to give us good news.
Yes, you need your jacket out there, but the cold front came through here dry, really hardly any reports of rain. Maybe Effingham had a shower, but it is clear. Now the issue is, it's 82 now, and look at that wind, northwest at about 16, humidity down there at 33%, so that cooler, drier air is coming in. So after sunset, you'll need a jacket. You'll really feel that big shock to the system and a big change in that temperature. So the forecast headlines look like this: cool after sunset, which is about 7:23 this evening. So if you're headed out to the high school football games, it'll start to feel like autumn. And we've got that all weekend. In fact, overnight lows in the 40s for all of us Sunday morning. But it's warm again next week, and I'll have the forecast and let you know if there's any rain chances or not coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Jim, you can get our forecast by texting the word weather to 314-425-5355.
A Macoupin County funeral director accused of giving out the wrong cremated remains to hundreds of families is now being sued.
5 on your side's Holden Kerwicki spent the day looking through the lawsuit. Holden.
Well, Kelly Ann, according to the lawsuit, more than 800 families had their loved ones cremated at Hines Funeral Home in Carlinville between 2017 and 2023, and they may have gotten the wrong remains. And though this case is nearly a year old, many of them may not even know that they don't have their loved one. Sangamon County Coroner Jim Allman filed an affidavit in support of the lawsuit being certified as a class action after he says he's verified at least 75 cases of families receiving the wrong remains, and in some cases that occurred after they had already spread the ashes they had received. The suit alleges that Hines not only gave people the wrong remains, but also kept bodies in unrefrigerated rooms for weeks at a time, and in some cases completely abandoned bodies at local hospitals. The suit seeks $50,000 in damages per family, but attorney Joe Craven says the suit isn't about the money.
Our biggest goal here is that we can try as best we can to help these family members achieve the closure that they thought they had years ago. The fact that they've had to reopen the grieving process, it's devastating to have to hear that they, as best they can, moved on from the death of their loved one only to have all of this reopened again.
Hines Funeral Home has since closed and the director relinquished his license with the state. The state of Illinois has since passed a chain of custody law to ensure that any incident like this never happens again. Kelly?
Well, today a plane made an emergency landing on the interstate near Mount Vernon. It happened around 8:30 this morning on Interstate 64. Here's a picture of the incident captured by a radio station in the area. The plane landed and then hit a guardrail. No one was hurt.
We have an unusual warning tonight from the St. Louis County Health Department. Be aware of bats.
Not bats outside necessarily, but inside your home. Tracy Henson is here with what the department has seen in the past few weeks. Tracy.
Kelly and Ann, more calls to animal control of bats in homes, schools, and businesses. The department is less concerned about the schools and businesses because usually people there are awake. The department says bats found in homes, usually on drapery or in doorways, can pose a unique risk. If people do not know exactly when the bat came inside, it is possible the bat could have made contact when they were asleep. While the bats in Missouri that we have are not after us for our blood, it is still possible they could bite us in our sleep, and then because their teeth are so tiny, we may not feel it.
You don't really know. When we try to ask people to think about, are you a heavy sleeper? Did you have a glass of wine before bed? Is there anyone in the room that can't speak for themselves, like a baby or something like that? Do your cats sleep with you and they wake up every time anything moves in the room? We ask people to think about all of those things, and that will help them assess their potential risk.
Okay, well, don't freak out. The good thing is that there is concern of a possible bat bite. You can get a rabies vaccine after the fact and it will still protect you. Rabies vaccines effectively prevent infection unless the person is already showing symptoms.
Good information, Tracy. Another arrest in the Georgia school shooting. The charges the teen suspect's father is facing tonight.
A sentencing is postponed for former President Trump while a judge is deciding on his hush money case after the November election.
Trading in a bachelor's degree for trade school, the advantage and disadvantages to taking this route.